Good afternoon and welcome to this special sitting of the Senate for the hearing and determination of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County. The senators had the preliminary remarks by both parties, that is the County Assembly of Kiambu and Governor Ferdinand Waititu. The governor was impeached by the Kiambu County Assembly on 19th December 2019 and forwarded that resolution to this House through the Speaker. The ward representatives accused the governor of gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2005. Also, they accused the governor of committing crimes under the national law. The third accusation is abuse of office and gross misconduct. The MCAs, in that motion that was successful in the County Assembly, argued that the governor exhibited gross misconduct in a number of ways. And this afternoon, the MCAs will be given an opportunity to put across their argument and adduce the evidence that they used to impeach Governor Ferdinand Waititu. And this House will be looking at that particular evidence to see whether or not they have been substantiated. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. You can stream this broadcast on YouTube, courtesy of the Parliament of Kenya YouTube channel. Good afternoon.
Okay, Honorable Senators, we had a break, and therefore we are going to continue with our program. And according to our program, I'll now invite the County Assembly to give evidence. Oh, okay. County Assembly?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, before the County Assembly takes the floor, I had earlier indicated to my learned colleague on the part of the Assembly that there will be an application that will be making before they make their case. And Mr. Speaker, I will be seeking your leave that I make that application at this stage. You recall that in our opening remarks, we made reference to the fact that we shall be making an application for admission of certain critical evidence outside the prescribed time. Mr. Speaker, I will be making that application, or rather seeking for your leave to make that application. Of course, noting that under Rules of Procedure, Rule number 13, there is proviso for making an application on a preliminary question. Mr. Speaker, the nature of my application will be critical to how this process proceeds, and therefore I will be urging, Mr. Speaker, that you grant me leave to make that application for admission of those documents outside the time that was prescribed by the Senate And if you grant me that leave, I will prosecute that application in very few minutes.
County Assembly, do you have an objection to that?
We don't have an objection to the leave sought to make the application, but we will respond substantively to the application once it's made.
Okay, since the County Assembly has agreed and this is their case, you may proceed to put the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to Counsel for the Assembly for the indulgence. Mr. Speaker, this application is founded under the 5th schedule of the Rules of Procedure of determination of the question of the proposed removal of a governor, and specifically Rule 29, Mr. Speaker, in which any question on admissibility of evidence and any question incidental thereto shall be determined by the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in determination of the application that we are making, which is admission of the governor's response, the witness statements, and the documents thereto, we are alive to standing order number 1, 2, in which any question or any issue that has not otherwise been provided for by the standing orders, that question is to be determined on the basis of the Constitution, forms and precedents.
What's your point of order, Senator Orengo?
Mr. Speaker, this application that is being made, we had no notice. We didn't have in our documents notice of this application. The notice that we have in the application raises 4 issues. Now, I was wondering, because we are time-bound in the work we are doing, if we are going to have preliminary objections, one after the other, and suppose each is going to take 30 minutes, if we go by standing order number 13, would it be better for the Counsel for the Governor to give indication how many applications it is going to make, how many preliminary objections? Because we've got only 2 days to sit, hear them, and make a determination. Can he tell us how many applications he wants to make? Then it may be better for those applications to be handled together or be handled in the process of the proceedings. As they urge their case, they can make those applications. But otherwise, we will find the whole day we are going to spend on these preliminary issues without going to the substance. And the time they have for each application, yeah. And I note that in the notice that they have filed, there is 4 issues. So, but when I had the address, it looks like there are many more issues. So I think we need to have some understanding so that our work is done in an orderly fashion. But not to say that he doesn't have the right to hearing. In fact, I'm trying to help, if he can be understood.
Let him respond first.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator. Now, Mr. Speaker, the applications we're making, one, and I'm starting with the admission of the documents and evidence out of time. That is the first application. The second one is whether the preliminary questions that we fashioned and filed before the Senate should be urged before a merit consideration of the impeachment proceedings. 3 will be a request to summon certain key witnesses, and I will cite the relevant provision that enables the Senate and the Speaker to summon relevant witnesses who may be having evidence material to the questions that are before this Senate. What I wish to point out, Mr. Speaker, is that I notice Rule 13 provides for 30 minutes. For this Senate's comfort, I will not take the 30 minutes. So I can consolidate those 3 questions so that my learned friend has a chance to respond to the 3, and then a determination can be made.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
I think the Speaker, my good learned friend, ought to make an election. In his preliminary objection, this one that he has filed, he has, in ground number 3, is that he wants this disposed of first before any other matter. So he has to be absolutely clear about what he wants to do first, because this presupposes that he wants this issue determined first, and therefore the other ones will follow by virtue of the decision that will be made by this House on this preliminary objection that is already on record. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, Senator Wetangula.
No.
My two distinguished learned friends are absolutely right. The learned friend representing the governor should elect. He has filed a preliminary objection, which, if he succeeds, the proceedings will end. And therefore, the issue of adducing evidence out of time will not arise. So he should choose whether to prosecute this application that is on record that will have far-reaching consequences on the proceedings depending on what we rule. Then, thereafter, he can seek leave to bring additional evidence. Otherwise, it can be construed that in seeking to bring additional evidence, he is abandoning the objection that is on record, that is saying that they are improperly before this House.
Okay.
If I can respond.
Senator Murkomen, before.
Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with the interventions of my learned colleagues. The only thing, the standing orders make it clear that any preliminary objections will only take 30 minutes. For our comfort, would it be then that it's good that it's given us a notice that it will take only 30 minutes for all the 3 preliminary objections if the House allows. But then maybe the question that Senator Wetangula is asking is the sequencing. And should we first hear the one that is in the file, but bearing in mind that even when he reverts back to making a case on the objections, in this case, he should not exhaust his 30 minutes because the standing order says for all the preliminary objections, we are going to use 30 minutes. That's my my interpretation of the relevant standing order.
Okay, can you respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now, the reason why we have started with the admission of documents is because our preliminary objection is based largely on evidence which is in those documents. For instance, there is an issue as to the threshold, whether the minimum number of MCAs that are supposed to vote and validly pass a resolution to impeach were present. We have logs, Mr. Speaker, which were not attached by the Assembly, showing the MCAs that were present at the Assembly. So that, Mr. Speaker, by urging, and I appreciate the comments by my learned colleagues, senators, that yes, the PO is purely on a point of law, but on undisputed evidence. Now that evidence, Mr. Speaker, apparently is not before the Senate by the Assembly, but it is evidence that we are seeking for admission before this Assembly. So that whereas, Mr. Speaker, we can urge the preliminary questions first, it is important, Mr. Speaker, that such critical evidence is also placed properly before the Senate. And that is why I set out that sequence. So if you allow, Mr. Speaker, I can urge the 3 preliminary questions: admissibility of documents out of time, then of course the preliminary questions on whether the PO should be heard first or in what sequence it should be heard, and third, the request I had mentioned about summoning certain persons who are critical in the fair determination of this impeachment question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What you do is you use the 30 minutes to plead for all the 3 that you have put forward, then we'll make a ruling.
I appreciate, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable senators.
Yes, Senator Orengo.
has been made is the point made by Senator Wetangula. Because my understanding of the preliminary objection which has been filed is that there are no proper proceedings before us. We don't have jurisdiction. Now, to urge that position, to call in evidence now, would mean that we go into a hearing. And that is what we are trying to avoid, so that we deal with the question of preliminary objection. But if he wants additional evidence, then I think it'd be neater for us to go into the hearing. Yes. Allow the county assembly to bring their evidence, and when it comes to the time for the governor to now plead his case, then at that time he can make an application that I need additional evidence. That's the way it should be done. But if he is doing it this way, then it means that he's going against the application. The notice of preliminary objection should then be withdrawn, and then he can go on with that application. But I think if he got the point of Senator Wetangula, I think it is helping his case. I would want to listen very carefully to what Senator Wetangula said, which is that either there are proper proceedings before us or there are no proceedings. So he should persuade us that there are no proper proceedings before us. And when he's doing that, you do it on the basis of what is on record, which we have already.
Okay, Counsel, you've heard what Senator Orengo has said. You want to respond, or I make a ruling?
Mr. Speaker, I heard you make a determination that within the 30 minutes, I deal with the 3 preliminary questions.
But order. The Senate is the court.
Yes.
And you've heard what they have also said, the issues they have raised. So the choice is yours to either follow what Senator Orengo has told you, or I make a ruling on how we proceed.
I can respond to Senator Orengo's comments on and Mr. Speaker, one, we appreciate that there is a preliminary objection that we filed on the law. It will still require your determination as to the order of precedent, whether we should start with that preliminary objection first. And it's the case of the governor that because it touches on the foundation of this impeachment proceedings, that it be heard first. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I have also raised a critical issue, that argument will be based on material that is not before the Senate, which we are seeking the leave of the Senate and the Speaker to admit out of time. So they are conjoined twins. They are, Mr. Speaker, because if we then do not admit the documents, if we do not admit the documents as we prosecute the preliminary objection, what shall we be referring to?
Okay, order.
So that's the nature of the request, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senators. Listening to both sides, you all want to be heard. And I think this Senate is there to hear and be fair to all of you. So I'll apply rule number 29. This is what it says. Where on a particular question or matter, including but not limited to questions of evidence, materiality, relevance, competence, or admissibility of evidence, and any question consequential or incidental thereto, no provision has been made in the standing orders or in these rules, the Speaker of the Senate shall rule on the question or matter, and the ruling of the Speaker shall be final. Therefore, this is my ruling, that since all of you want to be heard, the County Assembly will give the evidence, and when your time comes, you will then make that request of whether you want more documents to be admitted or not, and that's final. So, County Assembly, proceed.
So you have to have your band. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members. I believe the witness needs to be sworn. Yes, my first witness is ready. If he can be sworn, and we'll start.
You swear me?
Yes.
I, Solomon Kinuthia, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before the Senate in respect of the matters before the Senate shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Honorable Kinuthia, if you can please give the Senate your full names and your designation.
Thank you. My name is Solomon Kinuthia Amboy. I'm the elected MCA for Dendero Ward. And I also happen to have moved the proposed motion for impeachment of Governor Waititu.
Mr. Honorable Solomon, have you sworn a witness statement in support of the proceedings here?
Yes, I did saw a witness statement on the 25th January of 2020.
And that is the document that appears in the bundle that was submitted by the County Assembly.
What's your point of order, Senator? Let's minimize the points of order so that we can proceed.
The Speaker, sorry to interrupt. I'm doing this on behalf of many of our members on this side who have asked the same, and I want us to be very clear. And it has nothing to do with the witness making presentation there. The clarity we need is that is your ruling in effect, the earlier ruling in effect, that the question as to the issues on the preliminary objection as to whether there was actually an impeachment that took place in the County Assembly or not, is it in your ruling that it has been postponed to be determined? Will we have a question at the end that the House or this House will make a determination on the question of impeachment, whether it happened in Kiambu or not, or we are now left to go and make a determination on the charges at the far end? That is the confusing issue about your ruling, because it's no longer, it means, in other words, you have dispensed with the preliminary objection, meaning that you can only use it as point of arguments on the issues, on the charges before us, but the House will never have the determination, will never have the opportunity to make a determination as to whether the issue of an impeachment having taken place in County Assembly happened or not. And that is really, is it now that the Speaker just dispensed with such a serious, weighty matter without an opportunity in the future for the House to vote?
The House will have an opportunity because our motion will be brought. Remember, we shall also go in camera. And all that information that has been provided, all those issues that are being raised, will then be raised at that particular point. And as you vote, you will be voting with those issues raised in mind. So you'll have an opportunity to interrogate all those things as part of the evidence. Because some of the issues even raised about, say, whether there was no quorum or not, that is part of the evidence that is going to be given. And that will be now looked at when we retreat into camera and make a determination. That is my ruling. Please, let us, you're eating into the time of...
Mr. Speaker, that is important. It's extremely important. It's important for this House to, when they make a decision at the end, there is a question of whether an impeachment took place in Kiambu. And the reason why I'm asking you that, Mr. Speaker, is because with your ruling, what is left of us is to canvass the charges, to deal with the charges. The question that is obviously going to be dealt with by this House tomorrow is the question of voting on charge 1, charge 2, charge 3, and I think it's up to 4. My question is this House going to have an opportunity to have, first of all, to vote on was there an impeachment that took place or not? And you see, even if the governor is guilty, Mr. Speaker, of the charges, and I'm not saying he is, it will depend on evidence and so forth, there will be still a question, a very substantive question, of whether or not an impeachment took place in Kiambu County Assembly that would have a major implication on the decision that you make on the 4 charges. And we don't want to confuse that because, Mr. Speaker, we raised the caution earlier that if this process is going to be subjected to further testing out there, we want the country to know what did the Senate decide on the procedure of the County Assembly of Kiambu, either fair hearing or substantively, whether there was a proper voting on impeaching of the governor.
That is exactly the evidence that we are listening to now. So let's listen to the evidence. It will show, and you look at the documents, and it will determine whether an impeachment took place or not. So, and you'll have an opportunity. Yes, Senator Rengo.
Mr. Speaker, I want the leader to listen to me a little bit, because if you look at this record, in fact, what I'm finding myself in a very odd situation. Yeah, very odd, because we should not really be participating at this time. And we also want to make sure there's fair hearing, which is very important. Now, the County Assembly has put up a case not just of the charges. They have given us a record of what happened in Kiambu at the County Assembly. Who was there and who was not there. There's that evidence. So the question as to whether or not there was an impeachment is an important question throughout. From the moment we start listening and determining this issue, the question of whether or not there was a proper impeachment in Kiambu is there throughout. And the County Assembly has filed its papers in support of the fact that there was an impeachment. The governor, in his defense, is saying there was no impeachment. And for that purpose, he has raised a preliminary objection to say there was no impeachment. So during the hearing, that is a question that we have to deal with. And we are going to deal with it when we are going to be asked to respond and to vote.
Order. I thought I made a ruling. Order. I made a ruling. Order, members. I made a ruling. And in my understanding, even the Council has said he will need to produce more evidence to support the objection. So I have made a ruling. Let us proceed.
Yes, Honorable Solomon Kinuthia, I had the question I'd asked you is whether you had made a witness statement, and I wanted you to identify that witness statement in the bundle. Is it and I'm referring to the 4th witness statement in the bundle. Please confirm that is your statement.
Yes, I confirm that I did make that statement on the 25th of January this year.
Thank you. Now, the statement in question, therefore, unfortunately, our paginating of the statements is, or rather, paginating of the bundle starts after the statements. So you have 4 statements, and the 4th one, which ends at the beginning of page 1 and goes backwards, is the statement in question. Now, Honorable Solomon Kinuthia, I would like you to give the Senate just a brief view of your qualifications and your role within the County Assembly.
Thank you. I happen to be a certified public accountant, a certified public secretary, and a member in good standing of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Kenya, and also the Kenya Institute of Management, and an alumni of the University of Nairobi in the area of finance, master's degree.
You have indicated that you are the mover of the motion at the County Assembly. I would like you to briefly take us through the process that you went through in moving that motion and direct us to where it is in your witness statement. I think it's paragraph 7.
Thank you. I filed the motion for removal of Governor Honorable Ferdinand Waititu on the 3rd of December 2019, and on the 19th December 2019, I moved the same motion on the floor of the Assembly, and which was successful, and the same resolution was communicated to the Senate, and that's why we are here today to dispense with this matter as per the laws of the land.
Now, coming to the allegations that you raised in your motion, I would like you to take us through the allegations, starting with the first allegation of gross violation of the Constitution. What is it that you are alleging that the governor did, and what evidence do you have in support of that?
On the first allegation of gross violation of the Constitution, the County Government Act of 2012, and the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2015, there is an allegation we made that there was lack of accountability in the management of public finances, because the governor led the executive in incurring unsustainable wages, unsustainable pending bills in terms of commitment to contractors, and also went over and above the budget by issuing award letters and contracts for tarmacking of roads well above the set budget of 1.1 billion under the approved gazetted budget of 2018-2019. And these omissions could not have escaped the knowledge of the governor, granted that he heads the county executive committee and all the chief officers in charge of those tendering processes report directly to the governor. So an over commitment of 200% could not have escaped the attention of the governor. And it was safe to presume that it was officially sanctioned by the governor's office, that the contractors were duped into responding to advertisement for tenders, and they were given award letters which there was no intention whatsoever to honor them other than obtain personal benefit through the mode of kickbacks.
So if we can just quickly drill down to the various allegations. The first one you mentioned is that there were some incurred some pending bills, yes, which is paragraph 13. Yes. I'd like you to look at the document that starts at page 3, and if you can please identify that document for the House.
This is an annexure of the Auditor General's audited financial statement for the County Executive of Kiambu for the year ending June 2018. And the purpose of this annexure is to show where, after the governor was sworn into office, where we began as a position in terms of pending obligations.
So if you look at page 21 of that document,
yes,
can you tell us what is in that table?
This is a breakdown of the pending accounts payable and also the pending staff payables and other payables as per the audited position of that financial year of 2018. And you realize that for most of that year, for 10 months, the governor who was standing trial was in office. So this is a position that is audited as per the financial statements of that year.
So the allegation in paragraph 3 of your statement of 2.3 million pending bills is backed by audited statements from the Auditor General?
Sure.
Okay. I would like you to now go to the second allegation, which is that which is at paragraph 14, and tell us what was that allegation.
These are the approved and gazetted development budget for roads, transport, and public works and utilities for the period 2018-2019, which is under column 2, third row from the bottom.
What page?
And page 34.
Page 34. So the budget figure is based on audited figures.
This is the gazetted budget,
yes,
which has been passed and signed by the governor himself.
Okay. Now, your allegation in paragraph 15, what is it in relation to the budget that had been passed?
Under paragraph 15, we are making a statement of fact that the county executive arm of government made commitments in respect for various road tarmacking tenders worth 3.3 billion, whereas it was fully aware that the only money available to set off or to cater for those contracts was only a paltry 1.1 billion, thereby committing the county over and above budget to 200% of the approved budget.
So the allegation of awards of 3.3 billion in awards, where is the evidence of those awards?
That is in Annexure 35 and 36.
Page 35 and 36.
Page 35 and 36 of the bundle. And also what follows on 37, 38, 39, all the way to 49 is proof that this advertisement for tenders was done in newspapers of national circulation, and that we appointed as a county tender evaluation committees to vet those tenders, well aware we didn't have a budget for the same.
Okay. And since you represent the county assembly in these proceedings, will you be calling the procurement officer to also confirm this documentation that you have alluded to?
Yes, we'll be calling the director procurement to confirm the above statements of fact.
Now, when if we can move to paragraph 21 of your witness statement, because the rest you talk about the fact that there was this over procurement. What's your allegation against the governor there?
As a man of the world and a person who've lived in this country for the past 30 or so years, I'm well aware that the only motivation that the governor would have had to overcommit the county to the tune of 3.3 billion was only to collect 10% kickbacks from such awards.
Now, I would like you to go to paragraph 29 of your statement. And please tell us what does that relate to?
This is a breakdown of various companies which were registered between October of 2017 and March of 2019, in which the wife and daughters of the governor who is taking the stand today participated in the award of tenders from Kiambu County government without actually declaring interest, and they were paid expeditiously for services they provided.
Now, in terms of the documentation to support the award letters, the contracts, and the CR12s to back up this, did you provide this?
This is information that was attached to the resolution that came to the Senate on the 23rd of December, and the CR12s are attached, as well as the payment vouchers, which show a turnover of between 60 to 90 days between the date of registration and the date that the payment vouchers were generated to pay those registered companies in this list.
Okay. Now, if we can move on to paragraph 30 of your witness statement.
Yes.
Tell us what the allegation was before the county assembly.
It was the consensus of the county assembly that Honorable Waititu was in full knowledge that his next of kin in terms of daughters and wife were trading with the county, and that he never disclosed a conflict of interest, neither did he prevent them from trading with the county, contrary to the stated rules, especially on Public Procurement and Disposal Act. So that shows collusion and conspiracy to benefit from an office held by the governor, and hence it was a consensus of the assembly that that is impeachable conduct.
So moving away from the procurement questions, if we can go to paragraph 26 of your witness statement, crimes under the national law. What was the allegation and what was the evidence that was presented by yourself in respect of that?
Paragraph, kindly come back again.
So if you go to paragraph 26, under that,
Yes.
there is crimes under the national law,
Yes.
violation, and then it proceeds to the next page. Just tell us what that allegation was and what evidence you presented.
Under paragraph 26, the issue was a failure by the governor to establish a county budget and economic forum, which was intentional and calculated to ensure that the citizens do not participate in county matters. Moving on to the other paragraph below, the crimes under national law, it's about violation of Article 40 and Section 155 of the Land Act of 2012 by unlawfully acquiring and occupying a property in Thika owned previously by Cecilia Joaquim Bogwa.
Now, in respect of that allegation, do you have a witness who will come and table the reports of the CAJ as well as the various transfers that related to that?
Yes, I do.
Thanks. Now, coming to the allegation in respect of employment, there were certain allegations you made about how the governor conducted himself with regard to employment. What was the allegation there?
The allegation was that he disregarded the County Public Service Board as an organ created by the County Government Act, Section 74, and usurped the responsibility of interviewing and hiring county workers without the backing of the law.
Do you have a witness who has set out what that procedure is?
Yes, we do have a witness who have voluntarily rendered a witness statement to that effect.
And that's a statement of Martin Joroge.
Yes.
Now, if I may take you to the bundle, page 125 through 126 and 127. Can you tell us, and then also the bundle starting at page 128 right through to 138. If you can tell us the difference between those two bundles, the first bundle of 125 to 127, and then 128 to 138.
Thank you. The first bundle from 125 through to 128 is attached for purposes of contrasting. Ideally, the hiring process should proceed via an advertisement by the county public board. Then it's followed by a sitting, and you could see on 125 they are referring to a memo which is referred as CPBS ST7 number 2 volume 4 of 49 on dated 3rd April, where a post of chief driver job group H was advertised and interviewed for, and then a term and terms of service, and the pay grade is itemized, and it's signed below by the county secretary. That is ideally what should happen. There should be a sitting of the county public service board and a resolution via memo that should be communicated to the county public service board so that the hire is effected.
What about the letters from 128 to 137? What are those letters?
From 128 through to 137, this shows the prevailing situation in Kiambu, where the governor designs a vacancy and conducts hiring himself in complete disregard of the county public service board, and ultimately he signs the letter and directs various officers in the payroll office and also in the county secretary's office, who is the head of public service, to recognize that hiring decision.
And when you look at those letters, if I can just refer to one or two of them. Do you know what was the fate of these people who were hired by the governor directly?
Upon a random inquiry by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority Commission, about the hiring decisions, they were fired via a memo drafted by the county secretary, and instructions were given to the director of human resources to stop their salaries. There are 26 in number of those who were affected. The same fate befell the casual workers who were hired without proper regard to the laid down procedures.
Right. Now, Honorable Solomon, there has been, were you present during the impeachment proceedings?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell the House how the proceedings proceeded?
The proceedings were robust, as you'd expect, for such a motion of county importance. And members of county assembly, both in support or in complete opposition to the motion, were present. But there was a group that chose to retreat away from the assembly premises. But all the same, we proceeded under the guidance of the administrative wing of the assembly, which is led by the clerk and also the speaker. And we voted towards 6 in the evening. And the side that was amenable to the impeachment of Governor Waititu carried the day.
Now, if I can refer you to the standing orders of Kiambu County, can you confirm to the House what method of voting was utilized at the impeachment? So I can see that you have electronic voting, you have voting by acclamation, roll call voting. So what was the method that was utilized for voting?
We used roll call voting, where each side of the divide had an appointed teller by way of consensus, and we also had clerks assisting in terms of tallying.
Okay. Yes. Now, if you may look at your standing order, Standing Order 97, is that the one that governs the procedure for roll call voting?
Yes.
Now, if you look at Standing Order number 98, which makes provision for correction of errors during the roll call voting itself, was there any time that either the governor or anybody, any member, raised an issue as to confusion or error in the roll call voting, so as to under the said standing order?
No, I don't recall any member raising a concern about confusion or errors.
You are still a member of the County Assembly?
Yes.
Now, after the roll call had, the voting had been done and the resolution sent, are you aware whether anyone has invoked Standing Order 99, asking that whatever it is that had been determined as by the roll call should be corrected in the manner provided for under that Standing Order 99?
I'm not aware of efforts within the Assembly emanating from Standing Order 99.
Okay. That will be all for this witness and is available for cross-examination.
Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Senators, I'll begin the cross-examination of this witness and then I will yield the floor to my learned colleagues. Now,
Mr. Speaker, sorry, with your indulgence,
Okay.
I had just one more question. Do you wish to produce your witness and your witness statement and the documents that you have produced here to the House?
Yes, I do.
Now, Mr. Kinodia, I want us to start with what exactly transpired on the floor of the Assembly on the 19th of December. First, can you confirm that the totality of the members of the Assembly, Kiambu County Assembly, is 92?
Yes, it's public knowledge.
Kindly just answer the question the way I've asked. Whether it's public knowledge or otherwise is not the question. Now, can you confirm, Mr. Solomon, that out of the 92 members, 30 members were not present in the Assembly on the 19th of December?
I'm not aware of the abstentions and attendance of members. Administrative support is provided by the clerk's office, and I choose to adopt the position taken by the clerk and the speaker.
Were you present on the floor of the Assembly on the 19th?
Yes, I was present.
Are you aware? The question is, are you aware? If you're not, that's fine. Kindly don't give us stories. Are you aware that actually 35 members were not present on the floor of the Assembly on the 19th? If no, it's okay, we'll proceed.
No, I'm unaware.
You're unaware? Mm. You're aware that one of the issues the governor is raising is the threshold issue, and that the Assembly was served with a preliminary objection saying that the minimum threshold of MCAs were absent on the 19th. Was the Assembly served by the clerk of the Senate with that preliminary objection?
Yes, I've come to learn of that later.
Yes, so they were served. So you knew that there will be a question of numbers or an issue of numbers that will be up for determination by the Senate, didn't you?
It's debatable. The Senate.
No. Answer my question. Was the Assembly aware that there will be a question of numbers that this Senate will be called upon to determine in these proceedings? Yes or no?
It's part of what we are here to determine.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that this witness doesn't prevaricate. I am asking a very direct question. I am asking the question whether the Assembly was aware that the question of numbers or threshold of the MCAs that were present on the 19th would be a question for determination by the senators, yes or no?
We received a copy of your preliminary objection.
You did receive, thank you.
Yes.
And when you looked at the preliminary objection, you noticed that the governor was contesting the actual number that was present and voted on the 19th of December, didn't you?
Yes, I did go through.
Thank you. Now, when you noticed that, can you just look at the document you have produced before this Senate? Number one, showing, if at all, the actual attendance of MCAs on the 19th of December when the vote is said to have been taken. Do you have any such evidence? Yes or no? That's a document that was prepared by the Assembly, Honorable Solomon. And just so that we move faster, it's either you have it or you don't. Do you have an attendance list of the MCAs who attended on the 19th?
I don't have it.
You do not have it. Do you have a good answer why you do not have it, or you were seeking to suppress evidence from the Senate as to the actual number of people that were present on the 19th?
My work was to move the motion and lobby members to support it, which I did successfully. The rest of the roles are statutory roles, and each party, the Senate, the Speaker, Assembly, everybody has his role. And it's not in my purview to keep records for the Assembly. If it was, I would have brought the records here.
It's okay, we'll move on. We know that it is not your work to keep records, and so we'll take it that the evidence is just your oral evidence. Yet you knew that that would be a question that was in issue. Is this evidence or this material present before the Assembly, either at the clerk's office or any other office of the Assembly, the information regarding the records, those who voted, those that were absent, is that information available at the Assembly?
The County Assembly of Kiambu
Yes.
is a public institution.
Excuse me, Mr. Solomon. We know it is a public institution. My question is very direct and specific. Is this evidence as to those who voted, evidence that is available at the County Assembly of Kiambu, yes or no?
All information at the Assembly is public, and you can make specific requests to the Assembly to grant you that information.
Order. Solomon.
Yes.
You will assist this House.
Yes.
By answering questions directly the way you are asked. Don't take us into a lot of circumlocution.
Thank you. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker, sir.
So the question is this, and I put it to you, Mr. Solomon. You're the mover of the motion. You had a direct interest in the motion. The governor is contesting thresholds. I am asking you, is information or evidence regarding who attended, who voted nay, who voted yes, evidence available at the Assembly of Kiambu?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. But that evidence you confirm while on oath is not before this Honorable Senate.
I'm the one on oath, and I'm not aware of what Speaker sent here to the Senate.
I've asked you the question, and I'll pose it again, that as you testify, you can confirm that this is not evidence that is before the Senate, yes or no? Is it evidence before the Senate?
I would assume no. Because,
not you assume. The answer is no. There is no such evidence. Are you aware that under Section 33 of the County Government Act, for a valid resolution to be passed to impeach a governor, a minimum of 2/3 of the membership of the Assembly has to vote yes for that resolution?
Yes.
But we do not have evidence of whether that 2/3 was actually met. before this floor, before the Senate this afternoon, that evidence is lacking? Yes or no? Solomon, it's not about thinking, because we need to move a bit faster so that we can save on time. That evidence is not before the Senate, is it?
We say so.
Not yes. I say so. It's not there. Thank you. Let's move on. That's as far as now. I want you to look at the documents that you have produced, Mr. Sorry. I want you to look at the documents that you have produced. First of all, are you aware that under the rules of procedure, the Assembly cannot rely on any other additional material other than the material that was the basis of the allegation before the Assembly? Are you aware that you cannot introduce any new material at the Senate which was not part of the allegations?
We received a correspondence from Senate.
I'm asking, are you aware? Let's first of all, let's go sequentially. Are you aware that the Assembly cannot produce additional material that was not part of the allegations before the Assembly?
Yes, that I'm aware.
You're aware.
Yes.
I want you to quickly just skim through the documents that you have relied on. And do you have the documents that were served on the Honorable Governor when the notice of the motion at the Assembly was given, and the documents, if any, that was supplied to the Governor?
Yes, I do.
Do you have them with you? I just want us to compare, just a very short exercise. We compare what is now before the Senate and what the Governor was actually supplied with. And I want to just make this exercise very, very easy for you. And I want to start with some of the documents you've attached. For instance, you have attached documents, Honorable Senators, from page 2. Actually, we will start with page 1, which is a letter to the CAJ Ombudsman. Was that letter supplied to the Governor? Was that letter supplied to the Governor? Was that letter supplied to the Governor?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't? So the Governor is seeing these documents at the Senate for the first time. Correct? Correct? You know, you've said it wasn't. Go to page 2. Was that evidence supplied to the Governor at the Assembly level?
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, I would assume it was.
Not you'd assume. Do you have, because it's not an assumption, Solomon. This is a very serious house. It's an impeachment court. Is there evidence that the letter at page 2 was ever served on the Governor? Or this is the first time it's being tabled before the Senate? It's either you don't know or yes or no. So that we move on. We need to move a bit faster.
The letter was not supplied because...
It was not supplied. Thank you.
It came after the notice of motion.
Let's move on. The Auditor General's report at page 3 all the way to page... Actually, all the way to page number 33, signed by Auditor General Edward Oko. Was that Auditor General's report supplied to the Governor at the Assembly level?
The auditor was one who was being audited.
No. As to who was being audited or not is not the question. Was that document supplied to the Honorable Governor?
No, we didn't at that level.
You didn't, thank you. So the Governor is seeing it for the first time. Page 34, Mr. Solomon. A supposed summary of expenditure. Any evidence that the document at page 34, 35, and 36 was supplied to the Governor at the County Assembly?
Yes, this one was supplied to the Governor.
This one was?
Yes.
Do you have evidence of receipt of that document by the Office of the Governor?
This part of the bundle I handed to the clerk's office.
But you must have retained a copy, didn't you?
Yes.
Evidence of receipt by the Governor of that particular document?
I have the received
do you have
notice of motion.
Do you have it?
I can provide it to the Senate.
But you don't have
with
it
reasonable
with you.
Notice.
Let's go to the report of administrative justice from Ombudsman at page 50. Do you have evidence that that report was, again, which is what you're relying on to prosecute a charge of a crime committed against national law? Evidence that that report from Ombudsman was supplied to the Governor during his impeachment at the Assembly?
Yes, this one was.
Receipt of that document by the governor?
It is in the bundle we gave to the clerk.
But you do not have it with you here.
Yes.
Now, you have attached some title documents. Honorable Senators, page 64 of a certificate of lease for some property, which bears the name Cecilia Jo Kibogwa. And yes, from 64 to 74. Any evidence that that certificate of lease was served on the governor during his proposed impeachment, rather, before he was supposedly impeached by the Assembly? Do you have that evidence?
This came after.
It came after. So the governor is seeing this document yesterday when he was supplied with this document by the clerk of the Senate.
This came from the public participation that we held at the Assembly.
Okay, public participation.
Yes.
Okay. So, but the public participation, I presume, if any was conducted, was before a vote was taken.
Yes, in the intervening period.
So there was opportunity for this material to be served on the governor because the public participation precedes the voting.
He was also part of those who were invited.
As to whether he was part is not the question. There was opportunity for the Assembly to provide material that came up during the public participation. Wasn't there?
Yes, there was. Of course.
But you confirm that even after that information came to the attention of the Assembly, it was not served on the governor.
It was served through the Senate recently.
Yes, so the question is whether it was served by the Senate recently. I'm concerned about the service before his impeachment at the Assembly. It was not. Answer yes or no. We need to move a bit faster, Solomon.
We did our part in discovery of this material and handing it to the clerk.
No, it was not served on the governor. That is the question. Could you just answer this, Mr. Solomon? These are not questions you need to think about. It's a question whether you know you don't, so that we move on.
It was not served between the 3rd and the 19th.
It was? It was not served between the 3rd and the 19th.
But it was served
when the governor was supposedly impeached by the Assembly, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now let's just spend a bit of time on the allegations. That's on the process. Now, let's go to some very sensationalized. You've said about pending bills at paragraph 13 that one of the charges, Honorable Senators, gross violation of the Constitution, PFM, Public Procurement and Disposal Act, has to do with pending bills. First of all, you're aware that the issue of pending bills is a national issue. It's not unique to Kiambu, is it?
We are demonstrating here.
No. Answer my question. It's not about demonstrating. Are you aware that this is a national issue that's bedeviling all the countries, the counties in this country?
It's very unique to Kiambu.
Oh, it's unique. So only Kiambu has pending bills. Is that your evidence?
Arising out of overcommitment.
As to how it arose is not the question. Is it your testimony that only Kiambu has pending bills out of the 47 counties we have in this country?
I'm an MCA in Kiambu. I'm well aware of matters Kiambu County.
I did not ask you. Mr. Solomon, can you just answer the question? Mr. Speaker, I mean, this witness, let him not take this Senate for granted. It's a very important investigative exercise.
But the answer he has given, I think, is adequate. He has said he's aware of the Kiambu. He doesn't, because he belongs to Kiambu County. He doesn't belong to any other county. So I think he's right to say he knows only about Kiambu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Out of the 2.3 so-called billion for the pending bills, do you have a breakdown to show which of these bills may have been incurred during the previous regime? Do you have evidence of, first, a breakdown? You're talking of 2.3, or actually you said, yes, you have said 2.3. Out of this 2.3, which ones were incurred by the previous regime?
If you allow an explanation.
No. I'm asking, do you have, first of all, if you answer first, if there's need for clarification, I'm asking, out of this 2.3, let us see when they were incurred. Because you're aware that the governor on trial came in after the 2017 election.
He was sworn in on August.
Yes, he was sworn in. So what I'm asking, out of this 2.3, out of the 2.3, which part of those bills, if any, were inherited from the previous regime? Or do you have a breakdown to show when they were actually incurred and by who? From your documents. Just answer whether you have that evidence from your documents, then we move on.
We have not provided that breakdown.
You have not provided that. Okay. Are you aware of any provision under the Public Procurement and Asset and Disposal Act that treats spending bills as a crime? Or as a violation?
Yes, Section 135.
Just read for us. Do you have it? Section 35 or 135 of Public Procurement?
PFM Act.
PFMA.
Prohibits expenditure above set ceilings.
It prohibits expenditure. Let me, just give me that. 135. 135. PFM. So you've made reference to Section 135. Sorry, 35. Is that correct? Is 35 where you have pegged that particular charge? Because 35 is on stages of budgeting.
I said 135.
I'm interested in 135.
Counsel, please pay interest. I said 135.
No, it's not about paying interest. 130? 135. Let's see where that 135 is. So 135 marginal notes is county government to submit county assembly supplementary budget in certain circumstances. So my question is on these pending bills. It's not about submissions of estimates and budgets. It's first of all, what criminalizes pending bills? Because that has been treated as a crime under the charges proposed. So which section of the law criminalizes pending bills?
I'm aware you're a chief officer.
Not you're aware. Just tell us. You're the mover of the motion. You drafted the charge sheet. You must have read the law. Which violation, which pending bills is what you have treated as a violation. So I'm interested in which section of the law that you now rely on to say was violated by the governor because of incurring these bills that you could not even demonstrate when they were incurred. Do you have that so that we move on? First tell us whether you have that section in the charges.
Yes, we are going with the 135.
So 135 is the basis, eh? But yes. 135 from my statute, because yours could be different, is on submission of supplementary budgets and not what you're referring to. Now let's move on, Mr. Solomon. Now, you have referred to that the approved budget. First of all, you have referred to the between honorable senators, paragraph 15 of the witness statement, that there were award letters for road tarmacking, all right, amounting to 3.3 billion shillings. And you've made reference, I think, to page 43, honorable senators, to page 49. Let's start with page 43. Just confirm, Mr. Solomon, that page 43 is referring to invitation to tender. Is that what your document talks of?
Made reference to 35 through to 49.
Hang on, I'm referring to 43. I'll go to that document that you're referring to. That from page 43 to 49, they're actually invitations to tender and not the actual tender awards or tender contracts. Is that what you noticed from your bundle? Those are invitations to tender.
When I was
Excuse me, we need to move a bit faster. 43. Just tell us whether from your bundle those are invitations to tender and not the actual tender documents.
Point of order, Mr. Honorable Speaker. I think the council needs to let the witness answer. He is misrepresenting the testimony that the witness had given. The witness is trying to correct him and he's trying to bulldoze him. He's quoted the wrong pages that were cited in respect of the schedules, and the witness is trying to answer that. So I think let's give, if you ask a question, let it be answered.
Mr. Speaker, I'm referring to specific pages because in cross I'm supposed to ask a direct question. I'm referring the witness, not, first and foremost in cross I am not limited to even what came out in exam in chief. This is cross-examination. A question material relevant to the issue at hand can be raised. Mr. Speaker, I am raising a question touching on, there is an allegation on award of tenders by the governor. I am referring the witness to a document so we know the nomenclature of that document. Is it a tender, an invitation to tender, or what it is? Because you see, we cannot misrepresent certain facts. It's either an invitation to tender or a tender document or the contract. So that my question, Mr. Speaker, is premised on the documents that this witness has produced. And I believe that question is proper and in order during cross-examination.
Proceed.
Thank you. So, Mr. Solomon, go to page 43 very quickly, a very quick exercise. Page 43, can you confirm that from what is there, that is an invitation to tender?
Yeah, this is an invitation to tender.
So what I would be interested in, because you have referred to that between October 8, 2018 and 2019, the county issued a award letter for road tarmacking amounting to 3.3 billion. So this is a notification of award of tender. Can you point to us from the documents this notification of award of tender that the county government issued?
On 35 and 36.
35 and 36.
There is a summary.
So let's go to 35. Let's stop there. 35. So that to you, Honorable Senators, page 35. This witness is saying that that is what constitutes the letters of award of tender. Do you confirm that what we have is a list that has not been signed and therefore not authenticated and we cannot tell its source? That is what is being relied on to say that there was a award of tenders of 3.3 billion shillings. That is what you have. That is what you want the Senate to take as evidence of award of those tenders. A schedule unsigned, unauthenticated, whose source and origin cannot be established.
The tender numbers are serialized and they are official documents of the county.
I didn't ask you about the tender numbers, but that list has, those tenders are not there. And the actual letters of award of those tenders are not there.
This information we provided on the floor of the assembly. There was no rebuttal from the governor's side.
Excuse me, as to whether there were no rebuttal. That's not the question, Mr.
So
Solomon.
we did not attach it here.
You did not attach it.
Because you assumed silence was consent.
Thank you. You did not attach. That's fine. We'll take that to be your answer. Let's move on. Let's go to page 35. Now, from page 35 to 49, do you have contracts that were signed between the county government of Kiambu and these contractors for those tenders? Do you have them?
Yes, I would be willing to produce them.
Not about willing.
Today.
You knew that you had been invited to supply evidence to this Senate when you received the invitation to appear.
I have the contracts with me.
Where are they?
I'll be willing to table them.
Do you have them in the document? Do you have them in the document that you filed before the Senate?
They're here.
No.
They're here in this file.
Now, that will not assist us because you knew that, just like we had a challenge in filing our documents, you knew, in fact, all this time from the time you moved the motion on the 3rd of December, when you gave the notice. So 3rd of December, you gave a notice of impeachment touching on award of tender, and you knew you had those documents, but you decided not to supply those documents. Now you want this Senate to take that, what you've just done, raising a hand and saying, oh yes, here it is, but honorable senators, it's not before you. Let's move on. Now let's go to page 20, paragraph 21. Paragraph 21 of the witness statement. Now you have stated that the purpose of the irregular awards of these tenders was not to provide public roads, but was intended to enable the governor obtain personal benefit through kickbacks. First, we have not seen evidence of those tenders. Now, what I am interested in, Mr. Solomon, you stated that, in fact, the purpose was so that the governor can get a tithe. You said 10%, didn't you?
Yes, I gave a range of 10%.
That's fine. Now, do you have evidence of these kickbacks from these so-called contractors that were given these tenders? Kickbacks. So we need evidence that there was 10% paid to the governor by these contractors. From your documents, is that evidence there?
Not at the moment.
It's not there. All right, let's move on. Now, you have fashioned an allegation to do with... First of all, before I leave that, you've raised an issue of procurement because award and tendering is about procurement. Does the governor sit in the tender committee? Is he a member of the tender committee of the county government?
He has proper representation.
No. As to whether he has proper representation, that's a question of argument. Is he one of the members or persons who sit in the tender committee that awards tenders? Yes or no?
He's not.
He's not. Does he sit in the evaluation committee?
He is represented.
No, does he sit as a person, as a governor?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Yes.
Does the governor award tenders?
He does, from his modus operandi.
Oh, he does. Just show us from his modus operandi. Oh, that's a flowery term. Just tell us. Just show us where, from the evidence, excuse me, where from the evidence you've adduced that the governor issued a tender, a notification of award of tender in his own hand.
Refer to 29, paragraph 29.
Not paragraph. Show us that. I'm interested in the evidence. Page what?
Paragraph 29 of the witness statement.
Page.
Page 7.
I've asked a page?
Page 7.
Page 7. Page 7.
Yes.
So that is a notification of award of tender in the hand of the governor? Because that is my question.
These are family tree of the governor's family and the companies they own.
No. I didn't ask you about the family tree. You see, you're fashioning your question and answering it. My question is, Mr. Solomon, because this is a very serious process. I'm asking you a question. You have said, you say that the governor issues tenders or awards. Yes. My question is, from the documents you have, can you point out one letter of notification of award of tender by the governor to any of the contractors who may have benefited from this 3.3 billion shillings tender? Is there?
From paragraph 29, I'm persuaded to think.
No, not you're persuaded.
He has a hand.
I've asked you for evidence, a document, and evidence, in case, Mr. Solomon, with due respect, you don't understand, is if it's a letter of notification of award of tender, point us to one signed by the governor awarding a contract to whichever contractor. Do you have a single document?
I don't.
You don't. Thank you. Now let's go to the question of failure to establish the County Budget Economic Forum. Are you aware that, in fact, there is a County Budget Economic Forum in Kiambu?
There isn't.
There isn't?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when did you learn that Kiambu County government does not have this important forum called the County Budget Economic Forum?
For 2 budget cycles, there was no involvement or CBEF in budget formulation. The names are not gazetted.
What interventions, if any, did the County Assembly undertake in its oversight capacity? Did you ever summon the governor? And if so, when? To question him on failure to constitute that forum.
The record will show that we've raised this concern.
Show us the record, like when he was summoned. This is a question that we are raising. We want you to appear before the Assembly. Tell us why you have not set out this particular forum. You have not established this forum.
We summoned the CC.
So you've never.
The committee.
When did you summon? Do you have evidence of the summons when you may have summoned the CEC to answer to that question?
It can be provided.
It can be provided.
Yes.
But you don't have it. Have you ever summoned the governor himself? Because the person who is standing trial is the governor for failure to establish this forum. So any summon to the governor by the Assembly in its own oversight capacity, questioning why he has not.
The standing orders do not provide for members to summon the governor.
Oh, it doesn't. They do not provide.
Yes.
So that in a sense you're then saying that the only recourse that you would have had is just to impeach the governor because he has not established this forum.
We have had,
there are no other oversight mechanism that can be deployed.
We have canvassed this issue with his officials, but they are undermanned. So we
have you ever thought of going to court to get a mandamus order to compel him to constitute this forum because of failure to comply with a statutory obligation? Has the Assembly ever filed a suit?
We filed a few
Compel.
suits
Oh, you did. Particulars and when?
on the supplementary budget in April.
Not supplementary budget, on the issue of the county economic forum.
And the outcome
No,
was
I'm
not
asking
good.
about the question of failure to establish this important budget and economic forum. Any suit by the Assembly perhaps to compel, because the Assembly feels very strongly that this is a very serious violation. Any attempt by the Assembly to file a suit to compel the governor to establish this, was that ever done? Has that ever been done by the Assembly?
We exercised the other option we had in law to impeach him.
So you have never gone to court, but though that was an option that was available to you, to go to court and compel the governor.
The totality of these charges was very compelling.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, on the issue of so-called abuse of office. Now, you're aware that there is, or the governor is currently facing criminal prosecution touching on the issue of conflict of interest. Are you aware?
Yes, with a different set of facts and circumstances.
I will go there. I will go there. But you're aware that there's actually a pending criminal prosecution
Yes, I'm well
touching
aware.
on the issue of conflict of interest.
Yes, I am.
But in the charges, there is also a charge of conflict of interest touching on award of tenders. Correct?
Different companies, different
As
circumstances.
to whether they're different companies, but it's touching on the issue of award of tenders.
Yes, it does, for
Thank
sure.
you. Now let's go to these so-called members, immediate family members. Do you have any evidence of the relationship between Susan Wangari Ndung'u and the Honorable Governor?
Yes, I'm a family friend, and
No. As to whether I am asking you, do you have evidence? As to whether you're a family friend, we could be family friends to the governor also. But the question is, do you have evidence of this familial relationship between Susan Wangari Ndung'u and the governor?
going by the principle of holding out,
Do you?
he is a common law wife of the governor.
It's not common knowledge. It's not about taking judicial notice. We
I
are here.
said-
The governor pleaded not guilty.
Counsel, I said common law wife
Excuse me. You're saying common law wife.
by habit and repute.
So we need evidence of, do you have evidence of somebody who will come and say, I was there when the governor was paying dowry to this common law wife, and therefore this is a wife of the governor? Do you have that evidence before this Senate?
Yes, I attended the traditional dowries.
Do you?
session. Yes,
Do you?
in Dondori,
Do you?
Wakiongo. Yes, I
Do
did.
you have that evidence?
I was among the invited
Do you
guests.
have that evidence? Do you have that evidence before this court, this Senate?
Granted reasonable time, I would produce photos when I joined the family for Ngurario.
Do you have a marriage? You say even customary marriages, Mr. Solomon, and I'm sure you know that a certificate of marriage can actually issue. Do you have a certificate of marriage? Because you see, it's either we don't or we don't. As to who was present or not, that is not evidence before the Senate. I'm interested in, you're saying Susan is related to the governor by virtue of husband and wife. The question is, do you have a marriage certificate, perhaps showing that indeed this Susan Wangari Ndung'u, ID number this, is the wife of the governor?
I don't, and that
Thank you.
I retreated to the traditional
Thank you.
Nguraro ceremony.
Let's go to Monica Jerry. Let's go to Monica Jerry Ndung'u. Sorry. Again, there is Monica Jerry Ndung'u, Diana Wangoko. So they are so-called daughters. So again, any evidence that these persons listed there, because they only appear in a CL12. Mr. Solomon, that your evidence is that simply because there is a lady known as Diana Wangoko Ndung'u without more, and that shares the name Ndung'u just like the governor, that is the only link that you have between the governor and this so-called daughter.
Counsel, these are the members.
Is that the only evidence that you have?
These are the members listed as beneficiaries in the NHIF documents.
Oh, do you have that
Kiambu.
NHIF document?
With the leave of the chair, we'll produce
Do you
that
have
one.
it? But you knew that would be a material question because the governor has denied these charges.
We
So
were
do
not
you have,
aware-
do you, excuse me, do you have that evidence that this has been listed as beneficiaries by the Honorable Governor?
With the leave of the chair, Honorable Speaker will produce that
You
evidence.
don't have. Let's move on. Now, you have made reference to recruitment of casual laborers. And you have said that just because the governor issued a letter, then the recruitment was not proper. Is that your evidence? Is that your evidence, Mr. Solomon? Do you have evidence by a member of the County Public Service Board saying that these persons were actually not recruited by the board and that the governor proceeded to issue appointment letters on his own motion?
Yeah, we do have a statement sworn by a member of the board.
Okay, show
to
us
that effect.
So that statement, let's go to that statement, and you point us to that statement and where it says that as far as these casuals are concerned, we as the board did not recruit. Just show us that statement, and I'll quickly refer you to that statement because it's attached in your document. I believe this is the one at page... which page? Maybe you could...
Page 1 of
Page-
the bundle.
Page 1. Page 1.
Page 1 through to 2 and 3 of the bundle.
That is by...
Martin Njorogenjeri.
Oops. So where is that statement? Sorry. What's Martin? Martin Joroge Jerry. Now, just show us the paragraph that says that this particular recruitment or these letters were issued without recruitment by the Public Service Board. From that statement, just take us to the paragraph that says that we as a board did not recruit, but the governor nonetheless proceeded to issue letters of appointments to these casuals.
Paragraph 6 and 8 would
Paragraph
guide you.
6. Just read it to us,
6 and
paragraph
8.
6. Paragraph 6, what does it say? That pursuant to section 59(2) and 74, the board approves appointment. It just says what the board does. My question is, a direct averment in that witness statement that we as a board, or I as a member of the board, am aware we did not recruit these persons, and that the governor proceeded to issue appointment letters to those persons.
Section 74 of the CGA.
No, not section.
Together with the
page,
paragraph 8 of the statement. Would,
paragraph 8. Now, paragraph 8 of the statement, I'll read it to you. That I am aware that during the tenure under investigation, a number of appointments were done in compliance with the laid procedure. Is that what your statement reads? Paragraph 8. This witness is actually confirming that the appointments were done in compliance with the laid procedure, unless you're reading a different statement.
Continue.
During the debate on the impeachment motion, I was made aware that a number of appointments within the county were made outside the knowledge and involvement of the board. He's saying he was made aware. This is not the board saying that the recruitment was not done in compliance with the law. It is saying that the assembly made him aware. Now, are you able, other than now that statement saying that he was allegedly made aware, where is the actual evidence that that recruitment was not done in compliance with the law? Because this member of the County Public Service Board, Mr. Solomon, is saying he was made aware by the assembly. So it is actually not the board saying that the appointment was irregular. It is actually the assembly alleging. So now this now puts the ball directly into your court. As the person alleging and bringing to the awareness of this member of this alleged invalid appointment, where is that evidence that these casuals were actually not recruited in line with the law?
If we go to 128.
128. 120?
128 of the bundle, there is no reference to any minute of the board or an official memo from the board conveying the decision to appoint such an officer.
So any appointment letter in the hand of the governor must make reference to the minute of the board?
Because section 74...
Excuse me. So you're saying any appointment letter issued in the hand of the governor must refer to the minutes of the County Public Service Board.
With the exclusion of positions created by transition authority for personal staff, any other appointment should make reference to a board sitting and a reference of a memo conveying the same appointment to the CS, County Secretary for appointment. The governor has no role whatsoever.
Where is that in the law under the County Government Act that when the
74.
governor is... Sorry?
74 gives exclusive mandate for hiring.
No. Wait a minute. Let's go to section...
Public Service Board.
Let's go to section 74. So you're saying section 74 mandates the governor anytime he's issuing an appointment letter to refer to minutes. I'll quickly just look at my section 74 of the County Government Act.
74, not 174.
74, yes. The County Public Service Board shall regulate the engagement of persons on contract, volunteer and casual workers, staff of joint ventures, and attachment of interns in its public bodies and offices. My question is very direct. Is not how the County Public Service Board conducts its affairs. I've asked you a provision in law that says that when the governor is issuing a letter of appointment to whoever, he must refer to the minutes of the County Public Service Board that recruited that person.
Counsel, I answered that.
I've asked you a question as to which section, then you can explain, Mr. Solomon, kindly.
74 gives exclusive mandate to the board.
But that is not my question.
Save for positions that were mandated by transition
My
authority.
question is not on section 74.
123 is an admission of guilt on the part of the governor and the county secretary,
Counsel,
stopping all the salaries.
Order, you'll need to manage time because we are already over. We are over 1 hour, and we have a maximum of 4 hours for all the other witnesses. So let us manage time.
It's okay. I'm almost, Mr. Speaker. So those are the letters. You could not show us any evidence or any section of the law violated because of not referring to the minutes. That's what I can yield the floor to my learned colleagues to. Now, you have made reference to how the voting was actually done. Now, and my learned friend asked you a question regarding whether there was any correction of errors. Mr. Solomon, on the floor of the assembly on the 19th, the tellers are supposed to be, you're aware that the tellers are supposed to be selected on the basis of, who are voting yes and who are voting no, correct? Correct? There's a teller for no, there's a teller for yes.
Each party should, by consensus of voting.
Yes, by consensus. Who was the representative of the nay tellers?
Honorable Nyoto Amwere.
Confirm that Honorable Nyoto Amwere, who was representing the nay tellers, actually voted yes.
He voted yes.
He voted yes. Can you confirm that the only yes teller, who is Honorable Ikonya from Kiambu Town, the nay tell, the only nay vote, or rather, Honorable Ikonya, who was initially representing the nay tellers, was actually ejected from the assembly chamber during the voting.
He was disorderly.
By the speaker.
He was disorderly.
No. He was actually
he
ejected.
Defied the speaker.
He was actually ejected.
The speaker had no recourse but to eject him.
So that the one who represented the nay teller was actually not representing the nay side. He was actually representing the yes.
No, Nyoto was a nay person, but he had a movement.
No, but he voted yes. Didn't he? But he was allegedly representing the nay tellers.
Voting is on conscience, and if his conscience pricked him and he voted yes, we cannot reprimand him.
Let's go to him. You've made reference to intervention by EACC that led to the firing of these casuals. Do you have these letters from the EACC directing the governor or raising an issue as to the recruitment of these casuals, and that supposedly now led to the hiring of these casuals by the governor?
17th June was on or about.
No. I'm asking you, do you have that letter from EACC? Do you have a letter from EACC?
I don't. But
you don't. I'll yield the floor, Mr. Speaker, to my learned colleagues to also take up further questions in cross-examination. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I only have Mheshimiwa. I only have one question, and then we shall rest. On the day of the moving of the motion, the 19th of December, are you able to confirm that the governor was represented by two advocates who indicated by way of a letter that they were attending on his behalf the assembly proceedings?
Yes, the Speaker acknowledged their presence.
Now, you were there in the course of the proceedings, isn't it?
Yes, I was.
Is there a moment or an instance when the Speaker gave them a chance to represent the Speaker, make representations, answer to the evidence, and make submissions in support of the Speaker's of the governor's case? Did he invite them?
The Speaker...
No, did he invite them in the course of the proceedings? At any one instance? In
the communication from the chair, the Speaker indicated they were there to watch brief for the governor, not make representation, because our standing orders are a bit constrained and we don't admit anybody in the plenary other than the senator and the governor. So we were a bit constrained and they were only able to watch brief for the governor.
So in the impeachment proceedings of the governor, we are also not senators. We're in the Senate. We've been invited to speak to the governor's case. In the assembly, you confirm that the Speaker refused, despite notice, to invite the governor's advocates to defend him on the floor and answer to the allegations and to the motion. And instead proceeded to call for the vote.
We were expecting the governor and had made a reservation for where he was to sit in line with the standing orders. But when he sent the lawyers, they requested to just watch brief, and they were given a designated place to watch brief for the suspended governor.
So to that question, your answer is that the assembly did not hear the governor's lawyers at all?
The assembly was technically constrained by way of standing orders to admit lawyers on the plenary.
Whether because of the standing orders or otherwise, they were not heard at all. They were told, go to the gallery and watch like everybody else.
In line with the standing orders, we had designated a place for the governor on the right hand of the Speaker,
but
he failed to appear.
That's okay. We know you are evading the question, but it's a question of fact. And it's good that you have acknowledged, that the Speaker acknowledged that two counsels have been sent to represent the governor.
To watch brief.
Whatever you want to call it, they were there as the governor's representatives. Now, Mr. Speaker, I may need your direction on this. In the course of the cross-examination, there has been an admission that part of the documents that are being relied upon by the county assembly were actually not documents that were available to the governor or in the proceedings before the county assembly. Rule 19 of the 5th schedule to the standing orders expressly states that no additional documents should be adduced by the county assembly. The directions we seek is that no further reference should be made to those additional documents because they are highly prejudicial to the governor's case.
Just a point of order. The counsel was cross-examining, and once he's done, we'll need to have an opportunity for re-examination. If he then wants to address the question of admissibility of documents, he needs to make an application which we can respond to, but he can't do that in the course of the cross-examination.
Very well. We shall reserve our application for proper time.
Okay. Next witness.
Mr. Speaker, the standing orders do allow very limited re-examination for clarification. I just have three questions for clarification. Mr. Solomon, you were asked by the first counsel whether you had received the notice of preliminary objection. The question I want to ask you is, did you receive the notice of preliminary objection before or after the County Assembly had filed its record?
After the filing.
So by the time the County Assembly was filing its evidence as required under the rules and the standing orders, you are not aware that the question of quorum, as is alleged, was going to be raised?
I only became aware after receiving the preliminary objection.
Then you asked a question around the appointments and not given an opportunity to respond. I would like you to look at page 123. Can you tell us what that is, and if you can read the first paragraph of that memo? Who is it from?
It's coming from the county secretary and the head of public service.
And what does it say?
It goes to the director of human resource management.
Just read the paragraph.
Stoppage of salaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Read the first paragraph there.
The following officers were appointed by His Excellency Governor and issued with appointment letters signed by him, contrary to the laid down procedures. In view of this, therefore, urgently stop any further payment of salaries.
So there is evidence that one of the required organization officers have actually identified that breach.
Yes.
Now, you were also asked about conflict of interest and whether you are aware of criminal cases against the governor. Are you aware of any criminal case against the governor that touches on the allegations of conflict of interest that you have raised in these proceedings?
Yes, Counsel, I'm aware of one case where he's charged jointly with Susan Wangari Ndungu.
So is it in respect of the charges here, or is it a separate matter?
That is a separate matter relating to a special purpose vehicle formed for purposes of benefiting from 588 million road tenders.
So that's not what you have brought before you took to before the County Assembly?
That is separate. It's not related with any of this.
Yes. Now, you were also asked, in paragraph 29 of your witness statement, you have referred to various people as relatives of the Honorable Waititu, the wife and the daughters. Do you personally know Governor Waititu's wives?
Yes, I personally know both Susan Wangari Ndungu, the first wife, who occupies the office of the First Lady Kiambu,
Mr. Speaker,
and Esther Wamoyo.
Sorry, I have an objection because this is re-exam. I did not ask this witness whether he has personal knowledge of those persons. I asked of evidence, documentary evidence, so that now my learned friend will be extending the purview of that question, reopening that question, revisiting areas I did not touch. If I had posed the question whether he has personal knowledge, then it would be in order for my learned senior to re-examine this witness on that question. This will be reopening that question, and I was very specific, and I limited the scope of my question in cross-examination. This is the re-exam, if I understand it, is on clarification on an issue that arose. So it has to be pegged on the question that I asked. As to personal knowledge, and the Hansard can bear me out, if I raise the question, Mr. Speaker, regarding his personal knowledge or otherwise, then it will be open for my learned senior, with due respect, to re-examine this witness on that question. So I invite Mr. Speaker to.
Mr. Speaker, a brief response. My learned friend's objection is based on a false premise. The premise that he brought, and he was trying to be a little too clever with the witness, is to say that evidence is documents. That's not true. Evidence is not documents. Personal testimony is also evidence. So he asked him whether he has any evidence that this lady is the wife. Then he quickly followed it up to say, do you have documentary? You have brought the question of whether there is evidence that Susan Wangari Ndungu is a wife of Ferdinand Waititu. That's the question. And that is the question that he has a right to respond to. And when he told you he was there for the Gurario, you quickly ran away from the question.
Okay, proceed.
So just one last question. Now, you were referred to Standing Order number 19, Rule number 19 of the 5th schedule, which are the rules of procedure of this House, and you are asked whether you have introduced any new evidence that was not a part of the allegations. So the question I want to ask you, Solomon, yes. All the documents that were identified and which you confirmed were additional evidence, were they evidence of additional allegations, or did they relate to the allegations that you had dealt with?
Not at all. They all relate to the allegations that are presented on the floor of the Assembly on the 3rd of December 2019.
Yes. And in respect of the allegations on the land, is there a witness who's coming to testify on that?
Yes, there is.
No further re-exam.
Next witness.
Next witness is Eric Kiriko.
And manage your time because you have 2 hours to go.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, we were directed that the witnesses would be in a holding room, and we had asked that they be called as we are approaching.
I, Eric Kevin Kiriko, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before the Senate in respect of the matters before the Senate shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Mr. Kiriko, please give the House your full names and your profession and what it is that you do.
My full names are Eric Kevin Kiriko. I work for the county government of Kiambu as the legal advisor to the acting governor.
And what is your training, Mr. Kiriko?
My training is, I'm a lawyer. I have a LLB from the University of Hull and also a master's in the University of Hull.
Now, Mr. Kiriko.
Speak up. Huh?
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. Yes, I have a law degree from the University of Hull in the UK and also a master's from the same university.
So, Mr. Kiriko, have you have you provided a witness statement in these proceedings?
Yes, I have. And it's particularized as, it's paginated as number 1 in the bundle of documents.
I think each witness statement is actually starts at 1. So it's the third. Is it the second or the third? It's a third. It's a third witness statement.
Yes. Sorry. I was referring to my letter which I had written to the Commission of Administration of Justice. That was number 1.
Yeah. Mr. Kiriko, can you tell us the gist of your testimony? What is it that you have put in your witness statement?
Is it by there? What number is it? Okay, excellent. Okay. So essentially what I did is I wrote to the Commission of Administration of Justice and I had asked for further particulars on certain information which was in the public realm. And I wrote a letter dated 30th of October 2019, and I got a response dated 19th November from the Commission of Administration of Justice. Essentially, I was asking for information in respect to some property, and this was part of a press release by the chair lady of the Commission of Administration of Justice, and it essentially alluded to some property in Thika which had been transferred to one Esther Wamoyo Nyatu. And the essence of the report was that this property had been fraudulently, or rather it had been transferred improperly.
And what documents did you receive from the Commission?
I received a bundle of documents. I think it's from page 50 on. No, actually, it's from page 58, which was in response to my letter. And there was a bundle of documents, which, amongst other things, included the press statement which had been released, which I alluded to on the 26th. It also contained a certificate of lease. It also contained documentation which showed the property had been transferred to one Esther Wamoyo.
Now, in the report that you received from the Council of the Commission on Administrative Justice, and I want to refer it to page 70 because we don't need to go through all of it. Can you tell us what the Commission's conclusions and recommendations were as contained in that report?
Actually, the conclusions, the findings are actually on page 57, on number 3, where they said that the recommendations of the office was that the office...
Let's start with the conclusions, then come to the recommendations.
Okay. So basically in the conclusions, if I may read out, it said that the investigations looked into the alleged irregular transfer of ownership of the plots and abuse of power by officers involved in the transfer process. Based on the foregoing, the investigation confirmed that the 2 plots, and they refer to there, belonged to Mrs. Cecilia Joki Bogwa, and that they were irregularly transferred to Ms. Esther Nyatu Wamoyo. It then concludes that the plots have since been reverted to the rightful owner, Ms. Cecilia Bogwa. Yeah, that was the conclusion.
Okay. And what are the recommendations of the Commission?
The Commission said that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions should institute prosecution against Ferdinand Waititu, the Governor of Kiambu County, for abuse of office, for abuse of power and fraud, and that the County Government of Kiambu should expedite the long overdue approval of the development plans to enable Mrs. Bogwa to embark on her projects. The Commission also called upon the land registrars to exercise due diligence while conducting land transfers, including inviting all interested parties for consent.
Now, if we look at page 54, which is really just a reproduction of Article 59(4), can you confirm what the mandate of the Commission of Administration of Justice is as it relates to the charge that had been leveled?
So it says that the Commission is mandated under Article 59(4)(2) H and J of the Constitution and the Commission of Administration of Justice Act 2011 to inter alia investigate any conduct in state affairs or any act or omission in public administration in any sphere of government and and complaints of abuse of office, unfair treatment, manifest injustice or unlawful, oppressive, unfair or unresponsive official conduct.
Okay. Now, you are familiar with the Constitution. You told us you are a lawyer.
Yes.
Do you know the provisions of Article 39 with the right to correction of errors in reports?
Yes. In particular, I'm aware also of Article 40, which also talks about someone being enjoyed the right of enjoying their property. 39, I'd have to refer to it.
Yeah, we can give you a copy. So, to your knowledge, when did you say that you learnt about the press statement by the Commission of Administration of Justice?
It was round about the end of September. It was widely circulated. It was in the press, both print and broadcast. So I actually caught it on the news. I also caught it in the newspapers the day after.
Okay. To your knowledge, do you know whether Governor Waititu ever made a petition to have any of the findings of the Commission of Administration of Justice deleted or revoked or in any way retracted?
I'm unaware of that.
You're not aware. Okay. So that's all for this witness.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Senators, just a few questions in cross, then I yield the floor to my learned colleagues. Now, Mr. Kiriko, just confirm that you assumed the position of legal advisor on the 27th of August 2019, after the governor had already been barred from accessing office owing to the charges that he's currently facing.
Yes, I confirm that.
So when the matters that you've adverted to took place, you were actually not serving in the stated capacity, correct?
I was, when what happened?
When the matters that are the subject of this report by the Ombudsman, there were matters that took place prior to your assumption of office as the legal advisor.
Yes, if you look at the press statement, it started on the 5th. I said they started the investigations on the 5th of March, 2019. And at that time, I was not in that capacity.
That's fine. Now, you have made reference at paragraph 4 of the charges that you became aware of, that I became aware of the charges leveled against the governor of Kiambu sometimes on the 22nd September 2019. Which charges are you referring to? Are they the charges before this Senate, which are the subject of this impeachment?
No, they're not these charges.
They're not these charges?
No, they're not.
Which charges are you referring to?
I was actually referring to the press statement which was released by the Ombudsman.
By the Ombudsman. Yeah. So the press statement is a charge? That was a charge against the Honorable Governor?
There was not a charge, but they made recommendations.
Okay. Now, you say that I am aware the complaint with respect to the properties belonging to Cecilia Jo Kimbogwa is one of the charges. So first and foremost, Mr. Kiriko, because you appear to have some keen interest in this particular transaction, and so I'm sure that perhaps as part of your investigation, you may have taken a statement from the victim of this alleged fraud, who is Cecilia Njoki. Did you get a statement from her? Because you seem to be the one investigating this matter. That's why you even wrote to the Ombudsman. Did you take a statement from this lady, who is the alleged victim of this fraud?
I didn't take a statement from her. It was included in the press statement.
You did, but you appreciate that she's the victim of the fraud?
Yes, she is.
And not the assembly?
Yes.
You confirm that she has not filed a statement?
She's not filed a statement.
She's not. There's actually no statement from the victim of this fraud before this Senate to say this is what the governor did or did not do.
I think if you look at the letter which was written to me by the Ombudsman.
Page what?
So if you can go to page, 1 second.
Which page?
There's an affidavit which is there, I think, on page 70. This is not my bundle, I think. I can have it if I have my bundle. Oh, yes, in fact, I've seen it. If you look at page 98. Page 98. In page 98, you'll find an affidavit from the lady Cecilia Jo Kimbogwa. And this was part of the documents which was sent to me by the Ombudsman.
Now, you look at this affidavit.
Yes.
It says, it is a very short affidavit.
Yes.
She's saying that she's a legal and bona fide owner of that piece of land.
Yes.
She's still in possession of that land.
Yes.
She has not sold that land to anybody.
Yes.
She's conducted a search and was surprised to find some name.
Yes.
Though I signed the transfer documents, I sent them under duress from officials of the county government
yes.
of Kiambu. correct?
Yes.
And paying rates, etc., etc.
Yeah.
In that particular affidavit,
Yeah.
which is allegedly signed by Cecilia Joki Bogwa,
Yeah.
does it say who these officials or officers are? Does it say that the governor unduly influenced her to sign a transfer of her property from this affidavit?
It doesn't say that specifically.
It doesn't, thank you.
But if I may add,
It's okay.
If you look at the report, it says that.
You'll have a chance to be
Okay.
re-examined by
Okay.
your counsel.
That's
I'm just interested in the content of that.
Okay.
Now, you confirm that Cecilia Njoki Mbogwa is not one of the witnesses who've been lined up to appear and testify before the Senate.
Yes.
It was open to the Assembly, given that this is a very critical charge, to get this lady to come and testify before the Senate.
Yes.
And that the Assembly, in fact, did not find it necessary to get this lady to come and testify before the Senate.
I believe you can ask that question to the Assembly.
But she's not one
Yeah,
of the
she's not
witnesses
one of the
lined
witnesses.
up.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, let's move on. Now, you realize, Mr. Kireko, as a lawyer, that this is a case of alleged fraud.
Yes.
Are you aware of any investigations by DCI on account of these facts?
In respect to this issue of the Ombudsman?
In respect of this issue of a lady who was allegedly defrauded of her property allegedly by the governor. Are you aware of any investigations in that respect?
I'm aware of recommendations for investigations, but I'm not aware of any investigations.
You're not aware, so your answer is you're not aware that there has been any investigations by DCI
Yes.
on account of this complaint?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you aware whether perhaps the governor is facing charges again on account of this alleged fraud in any court in this country?
I am aware that he has been charged.
No, on account of fraud or defrauding this lady called Cecilia Njoki Mbogwa.
I'll repeat what I said. I am aware that there are recommendations.
No. You
That he be
appreciate
charged,
as a
but I
lawyer.
do not know.
You appreciate as a lawyer. There's a difference between recommendation and actual charge.
Yes.
So then my question is whether you're aware if the governor has been charged in any court of law on account of this alleged fraud.
I'm not aware.
You're not aware. Thank you very much. You say that you wrote a letter to the Commission of Administrative Justice on 30th of October 2019.
Yeah.
What may have prompted you to write this letter? You as Kireko, the legal advisor to the Deputy Governor. What may have prompted you?
When I heard about it, I didn't hear all the particulars, so I thought I'd get better information from the body which reported it and investigated it.
So what was the motivation?
Well,
You appreciate that you're not an investigator, are you?
and that is why I asked the right body to give me the information. I have.
The question is, what could have motivated you? You know, obviously, you cannot just wake up one morning and decide, I'll write to the office of the Ombudsman.
Yes.
Not on any other matter, but on a matter touching the governor. What could have been the motivation, if any?
I think I'd be derelict of my duties if I didn't ask for any information on something which was pertinent to our county.
Is that part of your maybe JD as the legal advisor to the Deputy Governor? To write letters touching on alleged private matters between persons? Is it part of your job description?
First of all, I think I'll answer that question by saying it's not a private matter. It is a matter which pertains to governance. And this was the governor of the county.
But you appreciate that but the question I posed, and you seems to be prevaricating on that question, is what was the motivation? Why this particular matter touching on the governor and not any other matter being dealt with by the office of the Ombudsman?
If you look at my letter which I wrote, I refer to myself as a voter of Kiambu. And
Page what? Where is that letter? At page what, kindly?
Let's go to page 1.
Huh?
Page 1.
Page 1 of the documents.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wrote as a
So
resident.
you're
and
saying you
as a
submit
voter.
this request in the spirit secured in the Constitution in respect of public access of information?
Yes.
So that you do what with that information?
It is important to know what your governors are doing. I'm a voter in that county, so I needed to know what is the governor doing.
So all matters that the governor does, you do write letters to the Ombudsman to inquire about them?
No, there was information which they gave in respect to this matter.
Thank you. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, You have talked of evidence. You've substantially referred to this report. First and foremost, when you requested for this report, of course, the Office of the Ombudsman does some investigations, correct? I presume before writing a report.
Yes.
It will write to persons of interest asking for statements and comments
Yes.
in furtherance of their rights to be heard.
Yes.
Were you served with the official transcript of the proceedings that took place before the Office of the Ombudsman, in which the governor is said to have admitted the matters that forms the basis or the content of the Ombudsman report? Any official transcript from Ombudsman's office that we conducted proceedings on this day, the governor appeared in person, and that this is what he stated. I so and so, just like court proceedings, the way the transcript is recorded. Did you get that transcript so that we can see what exactly the governor is said to have said with respect to these matters?
There's no transcript, but they do allege to what he said.
But you appreciate that the transcript is what would tell us what exactly the governor admitted? Because there must have been some recorded proceedings, isn't it? This is an investigative office.
Yes.
It investigates into complaints. So you would appreciate that that transcript would be there and that you actually did not ask for it.
No, I didn't ask for that transcript.
You did not ask for that transcript.
No, I didn't.
In fact, from the documents, Mr. Kiriko, that you have produced, do you have a statement in the hand of the governor admitting to this alleged fraud with respect to this lady? I mean, with respect to the land of this widow?
No, I do not.
You do not. Now, you're saying that you received a response on the 22nd from detailing the background leading to... Now, that you've answered because I've asked the question. So that, in essence, all you're telling the Senate is that the only evidence you have of this alleged commission of a crime under national law, which you have fashioned as fraud, is just a report from the Office of the Ombudsman. No transcript, no evidence, no admissions in the hand of the governor, no nothing, just that report. Is that your evidence?
The evidence is what I've attached here. But
Just that evidence. If you look at those leases
Yes.
and those transfers,
Yes.
can you point out to a transfer from this lady's land, rather from the name of this lady, Cecilia Njoki Mbogwa, to one Ferdinand Ndongo Waititu Babayao?
No, there's none.
There is none. Actually, not a single document other than reference to the Ombudsman's report that shows that the governor obtained any interest over land, over those properties that you have referred to. None at all.
Yes.
Thank you. I yield the floor to my learned colleagues to ask a few questions to this witness. Thank you, Honorable Senators. Yes, the last question, Mr. Kiriko. Could you kindly confirm that you were actually employed by the deputy governor himself?
Yes, I can confirm that.
Thank you. That's all for this witness.
Mr. Kiriko, just one question. Would you wish to produce your witness statement and evidence?
Yes, I would.
Yes, that is all. Mr. Speaker, we've had a brief conference and realized that the other witness we were supposed to call, Mr. Edwin Juguna, his testimony was actually adequately covered by Mr. Honorable Solomon, and we will not therefore be calling any further witnesses, and that in terms of evidence is the close of the County Assembly's case.
Okay, honorable senators, now we have, this is time for requests or clarifications, and you have 2 minutes and you must ask a specific, say whom you are asking the question. This is now open to the senators. There's no other witness. Senator. I've said you. Okay, just a clarification. Huh? I said this is the time for the senators to ask a question or clarifications from either the lawyer or the witnesses. And you have 2 minutes to do that. What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Speaker, the witnesses are not here. Although I can see the first witness is here. Is it then not in order for you to call the witness who has just finished to come back so that if those clarifications are going to be asked, we can be able to ask the Speaker?
Yeah, let him come back, the witness, if you had left. Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm just curious on whether we're only restricted to seeking clarification from the witness, or we can look at the entire submissions, including the opening statements made by the governor.
No.
In terms of, because it forms part of the submissions and parts of the argument. So that's what I want clarification on. If not, then if we're only restricted to seeking clarification from the witnesses, then maybe it is good for you to bring the witnesses back.
Okay. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, therefore a direction should be given that the County Assembly has not closed their case. Because if they have closed their case, what we are doing is reopening it. The rules would be that if senators ask a question which needs clarification, every question that is asked after it's completed, somebody must re-examine. The lawyers must re-examine that question with their witnesses. So therefore, it's important that that clarity is clear, so that then you, Speaker, so that I finish. No, one more. Speaker, I need your ear and your eye. Can I proceed? Yes, so that direction on how the question will be asked, whether all the questions will be asked, and then re-examination is done on either side is important so that we know how to proceed. Thank you.
This is what number 22 says. A senator may, in not more than 2 minutes or such further time as the Speaker may determine, put a question to any of the witnesses, a party, or the counsel representing a party. Yes, Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, that rule
Senator
Mr. Speaker, that rule is applicable in the course of proceedings. When a witness is still on oath and on the stand, then any senator who had any issue to clarify would have been entitled to do that. Then the relevant counsel would re-examine the witness and then we step him down. What we have done now is we have had the two witnesses, their case is closed. And we can't, as Senate, start reopening the case unless we reopen the hearing again to the extent that if any witness is called back for any senator to ask a question, each of the two lawyers plus the governor will be entitled to ask questions again. And it doesn't look neat at all. It's not procedural. And I think if we find that this is not the way to go, and I think it's not the way to go, then you just move us to the next level.
Okay, although number 22 is there, but you don't have to ask. So, yes, Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to reopen our Pandora's box, and that will be a circus by itself. Because if we call the witness back there, then members will ask questions. We will be asking ourselves whether the lawyers of both sides will have a right to ask the same questions. We'll go round and round. I think if the House is in agreement, the Senate is in agreement, we should let it lie there. But in the witnesses of the governor or the next stage, if one needs clarification, Mr. Speaker, it should come at the stage where the examination has been done and cross-examination is being done, and before the close of the cross-examination, before the witness, you stand the witness down, you now give us a chance to ask a few questions, so that then in re-examination, the lawyer of the accused in this, of the county assembly in this sense, would have had the opportunity to respond.
Okay, order, senators. Like I had mentioned, of course it's in our standing orders, but you don't have to ask. And reading the mood of the House, I think we'll not ask at this point in time, but the House will adjourn. The House will adjourn to tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the morning.